You're listening to WCTN.
May we make a suggestion? Take your phone off the hook. Somebody might call during the next hour or so and interrupt your fun.
Getting down. $1 million.
Bigger guests, bigger audio. You're listening to the West Coast Cruz with Russell Scott, Season 4.
Of course, you're here today to tell us about a very important story, but there's a lot more to it. There's a backstory to this that's very interesting, and it starts with your life as an orphan. So perhaps we could start there, John. You can begin to tell us the story today.
My life as an orphan started out in Brooklyn, New York. It was quite rough. When I was 5 years old, from what I remember, I remember my father used to beat my mother. He used to punch her a lot. So, wasn't around that much. When I was 5, he left or was thrown out. I don't know which. Never to see him again. I don't know if it really matters if I see him or not, but never tried to contact him. He never tried to contact me. So, left it at that. After that, my mother met someone else. She got pregnant. To find out while she was pregnant, she found out she had cancer. So, she decided to have the baby, and she did. But she came out of the hospital, but she went right back in because of the cancer. And it was one day, the day I remember is when I strictly remember her laying in bed and her saying that she wasn't going to be around anymore, that I needed to get through school, get through college, and get away from the family. And that was the last time I ever seen her. She passed away the next day, that night, the next day. So I went to live with my grandparents, which was a total nightmare. I mean, they stuck me in a junkyard. 7-year-old kid in the junkyard getting food once a day. You got extra hungry, you ate dog biscuits. You know, you still survive. At least you had your freedom. You can sit in the car and relax. You know, nobody's really bothering you. You had certain things you had to get done. You got it done. Except you didn't get your schooling done. Things like that just didn't exist. They didn't want you going to school. They wanted you working, and they collected their check for me, whatever, from the state. So went on with that for years until finally the school came after them. And they decided to move upstate New York. I remember Malone, New York, North, Westville, Constable. I remember being in a trailer, and I was young still. I was, 13, 14. And I remember living in a trailer with no water, no heat, no nothing. This went on for a couple of years. This one winter was really bad. I mean, chill factor was like 60 below zero, and the chickens froze to death. They were in the room next to me. So I decided to leave and go to a farm. And this farmer knew me because he used to do the hay on the fields right there, and I used to always help him. But he always thought that I was too young to be carrying 100-pound bales, you know. But proved them wrong. Did what I had to do. You know, you have to do what you have to do in life, especially when you're young and you're on your own. You really don't know much. So I remember I was walking to the farm through a blizzard, and it was cold. It was so cold. I was shivering. I just sat down on the road and praying somebody to come. But then, you know, he actually was coming to get me because he knew I was there. So I wind up living in the farm, and I told him I'd stay in the barn with the cows. It was warm. So had all the milk you want. It was a dairy farm. So I just wanted to get through school and move on with my life. And he agreed to help me. So it was pretty much a struggle there. In school, I would be put down a lot. I mean, I didn't have no clothes, really, nothing. I mean, I would have 2 pair of pants, sneakers with duct tape, you know. Winter comes, you get the red plastic bags. I always remember them putting them over my shoes so I wouldn't have wet feet. You know, I was always told, keep your feet dry, you know. Bags helped a lot. But being in school, I mean, kids are mean. They are so mean to each other. And even today you see it. I mean, if you're a struggling kid, They pick on you. They fight with you. They outcast you. And they don't realize it that a lot of those people that they're picking on wind up becoming a much stronger person, a better person than what they are. And I remember my psychologist. I used to have to go to a psychologist because I was always getting in fights because, I didn't smell good. I was a dirty, smelly kid in school. I didn't have a bath. I mean, you want to take a bath in a river in the middle of April when there's still ice in the water, please feel free. It's very cold. Trust me, I've done it many times. So wash your clothes in the river, break the ice, wash your clothes, jump in, take a bath, get out real fast because it's cold. But my psychologist, I was sitting there with him after I got in a really big fight. I had a fight with 3 or 4 of the guys. And I'm sitting in his office, and he was really mad because I beat one of them pretty bad. And he goes, "Why did you do this?" I said, "Well, they started with me. They started beating on me. And I never, ever in my life take the first punch. They started hitting me. I tried to walk away. They hit me once. I walked away. They hit me twice. I walked away. The third time, I was done." He's like, "Really?" He goes, "You're not going to be nothing in your life." I'm just sitting there like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well," you're going to wind up being a drug dealer. You're going to wind up in jail. You're going to wind up being in just jail the rest of your life because, you have less than a 3% chance in life in making it. There's nobody there to help you. The government's not going to help you. The people around you are not going to help you. You don't have parents. You're not going to make it. I got up to him, I walked over to him, and I shook his hands. And I said, "You have got to be the most stupidest person I've ever met today." Maybe there was something he meant by saying that. Maybe he figured psychology, reverse psychology, would work very well on me. Because whenever someone told me I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to do it, I did it. I didn't care. That just gave me more strength to really do what I had to do. And I say thank you to that man today. Because, at that time, I remember I was feeling really down. I was feeling out. And I didn't feel I had anybody behind me. And I felt that actually gave me a huge boost. So some people might say in the school system, well, that's really bad for a counselor to say something like that. But you know something? Maybe he was smarter than what I thought he was. Maybe he knew he needed to use reverse psychology. And the way our government gets involved in the schools today, it's just like it's a straight line. That's it. One way to do it. But back then, the government wasn't so much involved in the schools. You could leave a kid behind. Maybe they needed it. You can tell a kid exactly how you felt as a counselor, as a teacher. Maybe they needed that then. Today, you can go to jail for something like that.
That's right.
It's wrong. The government's too involved in it. But yeah, I think that really helped me a lot. So yeah, I did make it through high school. After high school, I went to the military. I signed myself in. I was awarded the state, so I signed myself in. And that was a challenge. I remember being in boot camp, and there was 205 troops in my battalion. And there was only 5 guys out of the 205 that were looked at that were going to get every trophy there was for physical fitness, for shooting, for everything. And I wasn't one of them that was chosen that they thought was going to do it. But I proved them wrong. Again, it was funny because I started working out for myself and challenging myself. And I would get up at night when everybody was sleeping and start doing my own workouts and getting my own sleep routine in and doing what I had to do because I knew I wanted to do this. And I was the only one that got every trophy. So I felt really good about that. So I did my time in the military.
Yeah, why'd you leave?
Well, my mother's dream. She said, finish school, go to college, get away from the family. Well, I haven't gone to college yet, and I wanted to. I mean, I could have stayed in the military, been a military brat of my life, but it's not something I really thought or something I really wanted to do. I wanted to go to college. So I got out, and I went to college. And I went to college in Dowling College, Oakdale, Long Island, for accounting. And I remember when I was signing into college, and I had a girlfriend at that time, Christine, and her father said, I told him that I signed up for 2 classes, and he tells me, he goes, well, you're not going to make it. I said, what do you mean? He goes, John, you have nobody here. You have to pay rent. You have a car payment. You have insurance to pay. You got bills to pay. How are you going to pay for college? And never mind just how are you going to put the time in to do it? And I said, Phil, you're wrong. I'm going to do it. And that next morning, I went back to the college and signed up full time. And I finished my college in 3.5 years. Proved him wrong. Again, someone who likes to challenge people. He was the type of person he was. And I remember on the farm from all of this, at that time, I was sitting thinking what Ivan used to say. He said, you know, you are what you hang out with. If you're going to stay with your family and they're nothing, you're going to be nothing. If you want to be on welfare, stay with them. If you want to be successful, be with successful people. And that's what I decided to do. Be with successful people, be a success of my own, and make it through life, but have fun doing it. In anything I do, I love to have fun. And I did okay in college. I can't say I was a great student. You know, my rule of thumb was give me a C and get me out. I mean, I was paying for my own school. I was working 80 hours a week. I worked in 7-Elevens. I did construction. I did whatever I had to do to get through college. When you don't have nobody to help you, you know something? You have to do what you have to do and get by.
So where'd you go from college, John?
Well, from college, I went to work credit unions. Went to the banking system. But the banking system was more of a, credit unions was more like a family again. You know, and I love family. I love friends. You know, I do anything for anyone. And all my friends know that. I'm always there for them. And the credit unions are like a family. I mean, all their members are like a family. Everybody knows each other by their first name. Everybody does things for everyone, you know. And it's just a very good atmosphere to me. It's not a corporation.
Well, what is a credit union?
A credit union is actually a financial institution. It's owned by the members. It's owned by the customers. They really own the credit union. They have voting rights. They have shares. I mean, they own the credit union. They decide what to do, what's not to do. And the credit union is really there not to make a huge profit. They are there to make a little money. But the money, the profit, goes back to the customers. They get higher rates on their savings accounts, checking accounts. They get lower rates on loans. So the credit unions are more there for them. But so
a credit union is not a bank as such.
It's yes and no. Yes, they still have banking guidelines you have to follow. I mean, there are rules and there are laws in place that they have to follow. They have to remain solvent. And there are rules and laws in place. But when those laws are broken, there are consequences. And the people who break them will go to jail. Manager breaks the law, he's going to jail. A teller breaks the law, she's going to jail. Big executives, managers of the credit union who run the whole credit unions, they break the law, they're going to jail. But if you go to a bank and you go to these big corporations, the executives break the law, they're not going to jail. They'll probably get a bonus from it. They probably made millions of dollars in bonuses already off of it. They're not going to jail. And the government does nothing about it. That's why you do not bank with international banking. You do not bank at big banks. Big banks need to be divided, conquered. They need to be broken up just for society purposes, to protect society. I mean, that's a national crisis when you have a bank that's too big to fail. Because if that bank is going to fail, because there's some individuals who are just money-hungry, sucking pigs from the little people, then the little people are going to pay to keep that organization open. So there really is no end in sight. They can keep taking and taking and taking from the big bank corporation, these people, but the little people are going to pay for it because that organization is too big to fail. So the government's not going to allow it.
So is then the solution to all of the world's banking problems to simply limit the size of the bank?
In my opinion, yes. Banks are too big. If a bank is too big to fail, they're too big to be open. They need to be divided and conquered. Very simple, very easy. You have a bank that's too big, HSBC, Chase, Bank America, these huge, large banks. If a bank goes under that's that big, it will have a huge effect on the economy. But if that bank is divided into, let's say, 5 or 6 corporations, and one corporation goes down, you have a very, very smaller effect on the economy compared to the whole organization going down. An example is if that bank needs a bailout.
And there's more jobs, too, of course.
Well, yes, there's more jobs. There's more profit shared among more individuals. Profit gets divided up. Instead of one bank making $100 billion and divided up through a couple executives who are sucking us dry, now it gets divided up to all the organizations that was created from that one organization. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, if the bank did fail, we wouldn't have to worry so much about the effect on the economy. It would affect us 99% paying the taxes to cover the bailouts. So there's a lot of variables involved when it comes to a big organization like that to a little organization. Other things are giving out all these mortgages to all these homeowners. I mean, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they give out billions upon billions in loans, but that would be divided up amongst other corporations, which will take a large portion of the risk off of the one institution. So, yeah, I believe in small banks. I believe in small credit unions. I don't believe these big banks should have the power to say, oh, you owe us $50,000 on a loan, so we put it on your credit just to find out it was a fraudulent transaction taking place against someone. I mean, what happened to our legal system of proving guilt? When these banks are doing these mortgages for these individuals, no income check mortgage, no income, no asset mortgages, and not checking nothing just because a bank representative sits there and says, oh, I can make $1,000 off this loan. Oh, I can make $10,000 off this loan. Let me put in whatever income makes the loan work. So this person's going to pay, and I'm going to make my commission.
I had no idea that loans were given out this way.
That's how they give it. That's why we came into this crisis. I mean, if you had a 500 FICO score, they would give you 107, 110% financing. And what that means, if you're buying a house for $100,000, they would give you $110,000 to close on a house. So therefore, you finance the house 100% and you finance the closing costs, which is their commission. They're making off the loan. So you're financing their income. What's right about that? When you're a low-class person, low-income person, making a small income that you cannot afford the payments, and you know that within 2 years, that loan is going to be a bad loan. Why was that loan given out? And why now does the taxpayers have to pay for that? There is no reason for that. The corporations are making billions of dollars. They should be paying for it. Either that, let them go under.
Well, John, this is the 21st century. All losses are public and all gains are private. This is why
disgusting.
the Dow Jones is at an all-time high and the U.S. government is at an all-time low in terms of being bankrupt.
That is so wrong.
But it's so true.
That is so wrong. And if we have a president that's in our office and we have Congress that's in our office, we need to get these people out and get people in there who have some common sense.
John, let's take a break and let's get into how you worked with HSBC and what you've discovered.
Okay.
We'll be back in 2 minutes with John Cruz. John, so at this point, the HSBC has approached you and they've offered you a lot of money to work for them. And your big dreams of working with the big banks have been fulfilled. How did that go for you?
Not good at all. Working at a credit union was totally different than you can imagine compared to a bank. And I thought there would be some similarities as far as working for a big corporation like HSBC, wanting me, knowing my background, and knowing what I do. They know that I'm a family man. They know that I'm very people-oriented. They know that I work with people and helping people to doing the best what there is for my customer. I don't care about what corporation I work for. I don't care what credit union I work for. I do what's right for a customer. And if I know it's right for the customer, the organization I work for always makes a profit, some kind of profit, no matter what. It's all legal. It's all good. But at HSBC, it was just like they don't care about you. They don't care about your customer. They care about the bottom line. And all they want to do is make money, make money, make money. If they're not making money off you, they don't want nothing to do with you. You're like a broken shovel in your shed, and you need a handle, and we're not going to put it on because we don't care about you. Let's wait for another one to walk in the door because we're not going to buy another one, that's for sure. And I started out in Carl Place, Long Island. That's where my heart and soul was with credit union and all. And I knew all the businesses. I had most of them in credit unions and everything. So I started bringing some of them over. You know, I had to get a feeling of what it was like first. And I remember my interview working at the bank. And I was sitting here waiting for the manager to show up because he was late on appointment. And people just walking by, and I knew them. They all knew me. And the employees in the bank were like, how do you know all these people? I says, I know the town. And we all got along really well. And manager came in, we started chatting and everything, and then we started talking about customers. And just by naming customers to him, he didn't realize I knew so many of his customers. So he did hire me. And we got along great, and everything was fine and everything. My first 4 months at the bank was a lot of training to do in the metropolitan area, just learning their systems and everything. What got very peculiar to me with the whole bank right in the beginning was, how does a bank this big operate with the computer system they have in place, which runs off DOS, has Microsoft intermingled in half of their programs and half not, and nothing ever worked the way it's supposed to. It was always broken and something was wrong in transactions. You always had to double and triple and check and make sure things got done. But you're dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars every day. How does this happen? My branch manager was my manager in the branch, but then I also had a business manager based out of Melville. And after a few months, he said he was quitting the bank. And I said to him, I says, why? He says, I can't do banking the way they want me to do banking. Let's just leave it at that. And he was very disturbed. And this was a man that just loved to talk about business and loved to talk about how things going, would give you details about everything. But that day he didn't. It was strange. He was just like, I need to leave. So he left and I got a new manager. And that's where the whole nightmare really began at the bank. He moved me out of car place. He didn't want me working with my manager. He didn't want me talking to other bank employees I work with. I'm like, what on earth is wrong with this man? This is what people do in banking. This is what employees do. They always talk to each other. And he moved me out to Suffolk County to these branches, and he figured that I was such a hotshot that I should handle all these big accounts out there. But the strangest things out of all these accounts and all these branches was that the customers were all from the metropolitan area, all around Long Island. A lot of them were in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania border, Newark, New Jersey. But what were they doing out in Eastern Long Island with their main accounts? So my job as a business representative, vice president of the bank, was to look at their accounts, look at their transactions, try to bring new business in off those accounts. And I would find these accounts to have a lot of PayPal transactions. Every day, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 transactions PayPal. But all the denominations were in multiples of 10,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. I mean, you could have $1 million come into one account just in those increments from PayPal. But the next day, the next morning, money was wired out to another country, to American Express. There was never any checks written. And I would find these accounts like everywhere. So I decided to start looking into a couple of them. And I remember doing an audit on one account. My first account was to do an audit on this one individual who, his main businesses, all 7 businesses were in New York City. But what was he doing in Eastern Long Island? Well, I went to the building on the 26th floor, and this is where 7 businesses are supposed to be. And I walked through, and I'm looking around, I'm walking in, and I didn't see the names anywhere. So I decided to walk through every door and ask, does this company exist here? Does this company exist here? All I got is no, 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 no. Doesn't here, not here, not here. So that's when I went down to security in the building, the actual management in the building, and asked them, where are these companies at? I have them listed here. I have them listed. Been here for a couple of years. And they checked their records on paper. Do not exist yet. Check their records on a computer system. They do not exist yet. These companies have never been in this building. These companies are not in this building. Never have. Done. Okay, fine. Don't exist. But they exist on paper there. And I look at the paperwork I have of people who did the actual site visits where they went to the business and looked at it and wrote the description of business. Those people don't even work at the bank anymore. If they did work at the bank anymore, I don't know. So I would check it out. And he had over $850 million that just went through his account. Through PayPal, American Express, wired in, wired out. And the wired in, wired out were actually handwritten tickets bank employees would do. Not actual wire transfers from other places. They were tickets in the accounts. I'm like, this is really weird. So I went to go see him, his businesses, just to find nothing exists. There was no physical business existing at the addresses. In the building, I checked with security in the building. Never knew if the companies ever existed there. They brought out the records and showed me that they don't exist there. They went on the computer system, showed me they don't exist there. So here I have an account over $855 million, and then I check his account record. You go into a bank and you give them your Social Security number, they can pull up all your accounts that you're associated with. So I did it with his Social Security number, and it pulled up almost 5,500 Social Security numbers across the country. I'm like, this can't be. And 80% of them were attached to attorney escrow accounts.
What does that mean?
Well, when an attorney has an escrow account, these are accounts held for people who have money for mortgages, deposits until the transaction gets through. Attorney escrow account is I'm going to hold money in a trust account for my siblings. It would go to the attorney. He would put it in a trust account, an escrow account, an escrow money, and the money gets dispersed out to the his clients. So this doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So this man can not have control of these accounts, but he did. He did have all these social security numbers going through. And then I found out there's thousands and thousands of business accounts all associated doing the same kind of business. I'm like, this is ungodly real. This can't be happening. Business doesn't exist. Using social security numbers across the country, PayPal transactions, American Express transactions, wire transfers, no checks being written out of a checking account, no interest on a checking account. This is suspicious activity and it needs to be reported. So I actually had to go back to my office. I told my manager about it. I figured, he'd be excited. You found the list. You really need to report this. Let's get rid of these accounts. We can't have this.
Let me ask you this. From your experience, what do you think this looks like at this point?
It's a cover-up. It's a scam. It's money laundering. It's illegal activities taking place. That's my opinion.
In the hundreds of millions of dollars.
In the hundreds of millions to trillions of dollars. Yes. That's my opinion. So I went further. Now, I never told anybody that this is illegal activity. I never told anybody this is fraudulent activity. I never told anybody this is drug money, this is terrorist money. I only told people this was suspicious activity. My job was to report suspicious activity when I found it. And I did. Report to my manager. Told me I was crazy, you're stupid, you have no idea what you're talking about. Went on and on. And right after that, he started writing me up for poor job performance for not bringing in business from bad accounts.
And here you were expecting a promotion.
I was just expecting a thank you. I don't expect nothing. I don't expect nothing unless I earn it. So he wouldn't listen. He started writing me up. So he went on vacation, and the district executives in the bank went on a vacation, and I planned this all out. My new manager was going to be the officer in charge for a day, so I brought it to him. He got me in touch with security. I sat with security, and I showed him what I had. And he starts blabbing. He's investigating over $2 billion right now. He says he can't handle investigations going on with all the fake loans, with all the fake transactions. He's just so sick of it. He tells me he can't report everything to law enforcement because the bank won't let him. He says, my hands are tied. I don't know what to do. I says, what about all this money laundering going on? And his name's George Matranka. He turns around and he goes, well, I didn't know about all this. I show him what I got. His first words after now, you should come work for me. I'm like, well, don't think they like that. I says, I find so much stuff here. This is make you sick. We went through the transaction. He goes, John, this is money laundering. This is what the bank does. This is the executives doing it. I said, well, we need to go report this to higher executives. He goes, John, you report this to higher executives, you're fired. This is what they do at the top on down to people above us. This is what they do, and we're not allowed to report it. We report it to them, and they do nothing with it. I'm like, oh my God, wow, what do we do? So here we go, someone telling me this is money laundering. This is someone telling me that managers are fraudulently notarizing loans, taking money out of the bank in people's names. He tells me about a guy who got $100,000. The guy never got the money. The managers took the money on him. They had CPA firm working with them doing illegal transactions, loans everywhere, and nothing I could do. But accounts are open, but they don't exist. Oh wow, this is great. So I told him about the 267 accounts that I found at the branch. Out of 351 accounts in a branch, 267 of them are all fraudulent accounts. But nobody ever knew that while I'm working with them, that I record all my conversations. So when somebody says, oh, I didn't say that, you know something? Wow. I'll let them talk all they want to talk, and then I'll play the tape recording for them. Let them perjure themselves. I don't care. So that's how you keep yourself covered, which I was always told, cover yourself when you find fraudulent activities because somebody's involved and they're going to try to protect themselves so they don't get caught and blame it on you.
And I'm recording this conversation, John.
Please feel free, go ahead. And I went on, and just finding more and more fraud. The manager who was running one branch left, another manager was gone. And these are the people doing the fraud and everything. And I'm like, wow. And now they're just going to go to another bank and do some more fraud and bring transactions through HSBC. I mean, HSBC doesn't just do transactions for HSBC. They do transactions for Wells Fargo and many other banks out there. They do a lot of international transactions. HSBC is king of doing transactions for cash transactions through borders because they're in 80 some odd plus countries, 85 countries, something like that, 88 countries, I don't know exactly. And they transfer a lot of money. I mean, trillions upon trillions, and they control the computer system. They can do whatever they want with it. They can lose what they want. They can say the transaction is to transfer sneakers, and all they're doing is transferring guns. They can say they can transfer mattresses. They could be transferring cocaine. Nobody knows because they control everything. So it's totally amazing.
Now, at this point, you're on your way out anyway. I mean, they're writing you up for poor job performance.
Oh, yes.
You've been flagged at this point, I'm assuming.
I was totally flagged. And after finding all this out and reporting and recording everybody and reporting it, and I went up to senior management, I went up to senior executives as far as I could go. Nobody would help. I decided at that point to get an attorney involved. I decided at that point to get law enforcement involved.
You know what? It's like The Firm, but instead of Tom Cruise, it's John Cruise.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, John, let's talk about that, and we'll talk about what happens when you take all this information to the authorities. Okay?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, this story is really starting to heat up, John. So at this point, you've got all the proof you could ever need. You've got all the evidence, I'm assuming, right?
I have thousands of pages of documents. I have dozens of tape recordings. I have a lot of ammunition.
And what do you do with it?
I first go ahead and I went to an attorney. And the attorney gets me a hold of other attorneys in Manhattan to talk with them about everything going on. Napoli, Ripken, Burns. While that's going on, I brought it to, I went to Suffolk County because I had a report that my notary stamp was possibly being used by the prior manager who did a lot of fraud. And she could be using it in the bank because she was known to do a lot of stuff like that. I go to the precinct in Hop Hog to report my stamp being used by her, and I had to explain why I thought about it, why I thought that someone would be using my stamp. And I explained to them about the fraudulent loans. I explained to them about suspicious activity taking place. The bank is doing nothing, about hundreds of millions of dollars being transferred and everything. And the police officer was just dumbfounded. Gave me the phone number to the district attorney's office, and I needed to go over there. So we actually called them up from there, and they told me to come over to see them. I went over to the district attorney's office, and I get this young DA, and I explained to him everything that was going on. I started to explain to him everything that was going on, and he stops me. He goes, listen, I can't handle this. He goes, I'm very new at this. Can't imagine this. You need to talk to the big chiefs, not even a middle guy. You need to go right to the top. He goes, so you sit here. So I sit there, and he gets me Patrick Mulcahy and Jeremy Shalepi, two senior DAs. We sit there going through documents and everything going on. And Patrick Mulcahy turns around to me. He goes, the bank has no idea you're here. I said, no, how do you know that? He goes, well, if they knew you were here, they knew you were coming here, you'd be a dead man.
Okay, wait a second. The district attorney's office of New York, who probably know exactly what goes on in society, told you that you would have been killed by the bank.
Yes.
Does that not blow your mind that people
that
they would know about this kind of stuff?
I was out of air. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? He goes to Jeremy, the other DA. He goes, look at all this money. Look at these names. And Jeremy goes, I know. And they both looked at me and go, you have no idea what you have here. I said, it's suspicious activity. And Patrick turns around, and I still remember him looking right in my eyes. He goes, John, this is drug money. This is terrorist money. If they knew you were coming here, you'd be a dead man. No exaggeration. Do not talk about this with them. Do not let them know, period, you came here. I was like, fine. He goes, we will be in touch with you in about 2 weeks. I said, okay. I said, my attorneys were also working on this. My attorneys said that they were getting a hold of, what was his name? Frank DiGregorio, Digregil, something like that, at Homeland Security. And the district attorney said they'll be back in touch with me. Now, nobody gets back to me. If all this goes on, nobody gets back to me. I'm like, what on earth are these people doing? I call the district attorney's office.
Saving their own ass, John.
Oh, my God. And the district attorney's office tells me that there's another organization working on this. They'll be in touch with me. Again, my attorneys tell me nothing. They're working on it. They're working on it. They're working on it. Okay. Just leave it alone. Things will take quite some time to progress. Okay. So as I'm still working at the bank, I mean, I have cars following me. I mean, when you see a blue car and it has no front plate on it and it's in a parking lot at one branch, and 3 hours later you're at another branch, that car's sitting in that branch now. And another hour after that, you're at another branch, and that car's sitting at the branch there. You know you're being followed. You know when you get home and there's cars sitting at the end of each block and there are no plates on them. There's a rear plate, but then you have the plate checked out. It doesn't exist. Something's really up. So I winded up getting terminated from the bank in February of 2010. From that time on, I worked a lot with my attorneys. We had a lot of conference calls with forensic accountants and all. And the forensic accountant was totally dumbfounded. He goes, how can you have tax returns on a cash basis, but your accounting methods are all written up in accrual methods? These are bogus tax returns. How can these transactions take place today, but the account was closed prior to these transactions taking place? That's the bank's computer system. How can this happen? These transactions don't make any sense. There's no way to follow them. They're one-sided transactions. They're things that were going on. It was like, oh, my God. And they're like, well, this is totally all legal activities. But then all of a sudden in February 2011, my attorneys no longer refused to call me back. My attorney didn't file the wrongful termination suit he was supposed to. Nothing happened. So
Wow.
I was in the process of also writing my book in the middle of all this. And my book's called World Banking, World Fraud. About everything going on, and I give complete descriptions of everything going on. So I didn't know what to do, so I kept going along with everything and kept my notes and everything, kept everything through. And I figured, it'll be 6 months or so before I hear from anything, and keep moving on with things and getting things going. And I kept getting suspicious phone calls. I mean, I still get phone calls from the bank requesting permission to do wire transfers for customers. I mean, not even 30 days ago, I got a call from the bank from Buffalo, New York, HSBC, requesting me to give permission to wire $5 million for XYZ company to Malaysia. I'm like, I don't even work at the bank.
Do they even know what they're doing over there?
I have no idea. This is just like, I'm like, is this serious? Are you really calling me?
Yeah, so what did you say to them? Yeah, sure, I give my permission.
I said I wouldn't wire any money for this bank, and I hung the phone up. I wouldn't wire any money. I said I wouldn't wire any money for that customer. I wouldn't wire any money for this bank. Don't call me back again. Goodbye. And I hung the phone up. I did not say I didn't work there. I didn't say nothing. I just said, do not call me again.
You didn't tell them the whole story, okay?
No, of course not. No. I was just like, I was totally dumbfounded that I got a call. And I get calls like that all the time. I get a lot of anonymous phone calls. And I'll give you an example. 2 months ago, I got a call from a 212 number. And the guy goes, can I speak to Mr. Cruz? And I go, who's calling? Can I speak to Mr. Cruz? I said, again, who's calling? I need his address. I need to send him some documentation. I said, well, I will have him call you back. And as I'm saying, I will have him call you back, he hangs up the phone. Now, I didn't take his number down. I just looked at my phone and I pressed send again. And your phone automatically calls back the last number that called you. Cell phone. I get a recording saying, I'm sorry, but this number has been disconnected. How does that happen?
It's fast.
Fast? He called me. The number was already disconnected. It was already set up that way through the computer system.
That's incredible. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I get. Those are the calls I always get. I get them once a month or so. So now I'm sitting here and I decided to start releasing the story to the press, getting the story out to the world.
So what's the 212 area code? Is that New York?
212 is New York City.
631. That's the other one.
631 is Suffolk County.
Yeah.
516 is Nassau County.
Okay.
All the areas that I worked in, and all this activity taking place, and all these hundreds of millions to trillions and billions of dollars are just floating out there. I mean, my God, if we can collect all the money that's bank is laundering, we wouldn't have a national deficit.
But this is all kiting, is it not? This is all a big Ponzi scheme?
I truly believe that big corporations are nothing but a Ponzi scheme. I also believe that the government's involved in it. I mean, we just gave out $2 trillion. We raised our national debt to the 99 percenters to pay $2 more trillion in debt, plus interest. So the rich men have a nice bank account there, knowing that there's like 14, 16, 18 trillion dollars owed to them, which money that was just given out. Why? I mean, I can't see how you can say, oh, we have countries over in other worlds where you have to give them billions of dollars, but we're writing blank checks. Wish I could do that.
Well, $8 million a day to Israel.
Yeah. Why? There's no reason for it. We're writing checks we don't have. We're giving out money we don't have. Isn't that a form of money laundering in itself? I don't know. It's building and building. But anyway.
At this point, you've left from New York, have you not?
Yeah, I left from New York. I'm out in the Midwest now. I go back and forth all the time for legal issues. Just moving along. Because I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going until every person I know, every person I do not know, knows what's in my book, World Banking World Fraud, knows what kind of money laundering is going out, knows that this affects them, their children, their identities, how their identities are being used. I mean, this is totally amazing. I mean, I'm in a process right now. We're almost ready to file the SEC complaint. And I feel sorry for anybody who does have an HSBC account that is found to be on the list of thousands upon thousands and millions of Social Security numbers used to launder money. There's going to be huge audits coming. I mean, I'm filing a whistleblower with the IRS, states and federal. I mean, just that one account alone that had 5,500 Social Security numbers attached to it for all different states throughout the U.S. There's whistleblower complaints going against every Social Security number throughout the U.S. The bank's going to have to produce records. The customers are going to have to produce records. You know, somebody's liable for these transactions taking place. If it's drug money, it's drug money. If it's terrorist money, it's terrorist money. I don't know. I mean, I sat with the district attorneys and they told me point blank, this is drug money. This is terrorist money. You know, WorldNet Daily has been a great success as far as helping me get my story out to people. And the first time we put out the story saying this was drug money and terrorist money, Homeland Security called me. Good old Frank gave me a call, and Keith Graham called me saying, how dare I put something like this in the news? Why didn't I contact them? What is this all about? You know, and they just called me a disruptive employee. That was their term. Very upset, lying and everything. And I turned around and I said, you know, they said to me, you're a disruptive employee. It took you 2 years. And they're like, why? And I said, you know, I would very gladly answer your question if you answer mine. And they're like, what? I go, well, 2 years ago, my attorneys contacted you. I have emails to prove it. And you did nothing. Now, well, because there's a story in the media, you're doing something? 2 years, huh? You tell me why it took you 2 years to get in touch with me. I'll tell you why it took me 2 years to talk to you. Because it's the same answer. You're too damn lazy or you're hiding something. I don't trust them. And I recorded them.
Well, clearly they were looking at what you were doing and following you.
Yeah, and they wanted to know how I got this Mexican drug cartel and everything information. And I said, Jason, you wrote this story. I says, I didn't write the story. I mean, Jerry Corsi wrote the story. Well, where did he get his information from? He got it from me. Well, where did I get my information from? I got it from the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, Patrick Mulcahy and Jeremy Shalepi. Okay? They told me point blank what it was. And I told them I recorded the conversation. After they go, well, I don't think they would agree with you. I said, they don't have to. I recorded their conversation. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I recorded their conversation just like I'm recording your conversation. This conversation is being recorded. The phone went totally dead. He says, I'll be back in touch with you in 2 weeks. That was on February 7th. It's almost 2 months. Is it going to be another 2 years? I don't think so. I think we're talking very soon. Once the SEC complaint gets out there, I have certain tape recordings that are just hidden and put away, mainly to protect people. But I'm not sitting back doing nothing. I'm not sitting back looking over my shoulder my whole life. The more people that know about this, the safer I am. The more people that know about this, the safer they are. People need to know the truth. If they go to my website at www.worldbankingworldfraud.com, they can learn the truth. There are news articles up there from WorldNet Daily. There are stories about everything going on with HSBC and all the money laundering and how they use our children's identities, how they use our identities, how they use corporations' identities, how they use identities to launder money, how they do many, many illegal activities. Remember, illegal activities taking place around the world need the banking system to put their money. I don't care if it's drugs. I don't care if it's prostitution. I don't care if it's goods. If it's illegal, they still need a bank to get their money around. To use their money, they need the banking system. And HSBC is king of cash, and they're king of money laundering. Simple.
We'll take a break with today's guest. Holy shit. John Cruz.
On the next episode of The West Coast Truth with Russell Scott.
But the way that I see it is you can say that the system is predatory, but in that is a kernel of truth about who we are on the inside. So this is also another part of my work. The reason why I do get into the stuff in esoteric agenda, and I do point out the fact that there are those families out there, there are those bloodlines, and there are those conspiracies, is because it's not about just fixing or, in a sense, knowing yourself. I believe that knowing yourself is the alpha and omega of all of it. And once you know yourself, then you know how to connect with other people. And then you can start writing the community and writing the state and then writing the nation and, in a sense, writing the world.
Somebody's probably going to say, holy shit, this guy actually talks that way.
With all original music by Hyro Sonic. The West Coast Truth with Russell Scott. Season 4.
Great show, man. You're a pretty ballsy guy, though, I have to say, John. I mean, that must be quite intimidating, getting a call from the Department of Homeland Security.
I thought it was a joke. Personally, I thought it was a joke. The way they presented themselves, the way they handled themselves, I mean, I've seen 4-year-olds do better jobs. It's just totally mind-boggling.
So, curiously, because you are a banker and whatnot, and we did talk about this already before, off the air, but what caused the 2008 collapse? Is it what you uncovered?
I would believe so. I believe there's a lot to do with money laundering, a lot to do with fake loans, a lot to do with the 1% just wanting to make more money. I mean, there is so much money out there today in very little people's hands to where most of the world is starving, but the rich are richer than ever. And they're still taking us more. It's just mind-boggling. Look at these gas prices. Where's the money going? To 1%. Is there a reason for that? No. All this money of these loans, all this money that went out for the stimulus package, all this money that went to these solar companies, bogus companies that are no longer in business, went bankrupt. Guaranteed loans by our government.
It's only $500 million they gave to Solyndra.
That was one company. What about the others they're not telling you about? What about all the money being transferred around the world to all these banks and everything?
Well, how big of a number is $500 million in terms of the banking world?
It's probably like a drop in the bucket.
So when someone has a checking account with the HSBC,
$500 million is a drop in a bucket. I mean, they could throw that around, take the paper and just burn it if they wanted to.
So $5,000 in your checking account, you're not exactly the most valued customer for HSBC.
No, I had customers come in that had $1 million. They said, I want special privilege. I go, for what? We don't care about $1 million. Did not care. You're talking 10 million, 20 million? Yeah, you can be a valued customer. $1 million? No, they don't care about $1 million. They make millions. They make billions. They make trillions. I mean, my God, the money they make. And all they do is keep it. I mean, Hong Kong, Shanghai Banking Corporation. Think of the definition of Shanghai. Hang them, cut them dry. In my book, World Banking, World Fraud, the definition is the first part of the book. And the book goes in very much detail of how...
And America's been shanghaied.
Yeah, America is it's a joke now. Oh, my God. all these lobbyists from all these different. I mean, you're in Iran and you want to attack America. Open corporations up in America. Start doing lobbying. Get your own people in there into the offices. It's easy for them. I mean, you can have somebody born in one country, in Iran, and get them into America, one or another, and just say they're born here and work them through the system. And so you do a couple dozens of them just to make them through the system and use all your power, get them educated, and they could become president. It's totally amazing. That's our country. And then you become a lobbyist, corporations, which the other countries own, to pay for all the campaigns and everything, and get these people president. Where's our common sense today in this country? When these big corporations are paying these politicians for all their campaigns and everything, where's all that money coming from? The little people. They just charge it to the goods and services and call it a cost of doing business and give it to the campaigns so the laws get passed so these corporations can do whatever they want to do. They're paying for the laws to be passed so they can make a lot more money off it. So they'll pay $100 million in lobbying money to get someone elected, to get a bill passed, and they'll make billions off of it.
Is America only a corporate fascist empire now, John?
I don't know yes or no to really answer that. But, look at America. They seem like big corporation controls everything. I mean, even their own government's trying to control the media and what you put out there, what you don't put out there. They're trying to control the internet. I mean, they're monitoring everything around you. I mean, you can have a camera on every street. Pretty soon you have a camera in every room in your house so they can watch you.
Yeah, but it's not to look at them. It's to look at us.
It's to look at us.
I mean, if you're looking at them, they're telling you to shut up.
Yes. They say, shut up and forget about it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just a little poor guy, Sorry, but I'm not going to shut up. People are being hurt. I mean, I get emails all the time. I mean, I just got an email this morning from someone saying that PayPal is 1099ing them for a corporation making money, and they never owned it. I got an email the other day from a lady who got a $50,000 loan from HSBC, according to HSBC, but she has no idea what they're talking about. Since my book came out, this is all I get all the time. My emails just keep going off and off on how people are being ripped off. I mean, I just got a credit card for HSBC from my international account that I've never had. My accounts were closed with them years ago. But they sent me an international card from my international account. Mm-hmm. I have friends in New York. She left HSBC back in 2008. And she just got international account letters regarding her accounts for her grandchildren that she never had. So where does it ever end? Where does the responsibility come to say, hey, you know something? You're not doing good business. We don't want you here anymore. Get out of our country. Go back to British. Go back to where you come from. We don't need you here. We don't want you here. When did American people going to wake up and say, you know something? Enough is enough.
There was a time, John, that if you found a bag of money, the right thing to do was to take it to your nearest bank, right? Or police station. You know what I mean? But now it's like, I'd screw them. I'm going to keep that bag for myself.
Exactly. Yeah. Why would you walk into a bank and fill out a credit card application and that representative is going to make $25 off your application? That's an incentive to create fraud. It's not part of their job. Why? There should be no incentive to anyone to have to take out a loan or open an account. That should be at their own free will. You get paid a salary, you do a job to take care of those customers. That's a credit union atmosphere. At credit unions, you don't make money as a loan representative giving out loans. You don't make money by opening accounts. In big corporations, they create these incentives, which also creates a culture of crime. And that's what HSBC does. They create a culture of crime, and they improve upon it. Every time they get investigated, they keep billions of dollars sitting on the side just to pay off regulators, just to pay off investigators. And that was told me by their own investigators. They pay off people to keep this going.
So what chance do you think you have being a whistleblower? And what potential does this have? How big is this?
This is huge. Could you imagine shutting HSBC down from America from doing trade when they do trillions of dollars in trade, especially from China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Brazil, Mexico, all countries around the world, they do all trade. Could you imagine shutting them down?
Yeah, but next week, if you shut them down, the week after, they'd have the SHBC set up. They have a new corporation, a new bank.
No, but you wouldn't have a bank so big. You'd have to divide and conquer. You divide and conquer, and you regulate them. I mean, you regulate them to the hill. They're making billions and billions of dollars. They can pay for these regulators, the government regulators to be there. And the government regulators, they need to be watched too. I mean, I went to Homeland Security and they did nothing so far. I went to district attorneys. They told me what it is and they did nothing. They already know what's going on and they're doing nothing. So these people don't belong in office.
Tell me about the book. Tell me about writing the book and just a little bit about it and where to buy it.
I wrote the book called World Banking, World Fraud, Using Your Identity. Everybody who has read it is totally dumbfounded. They love the book. They just can't believe how detailed I was with everything. I mean, I give detailed descriptions on how money is laundered and how it is done in a trickle effect. I give details about people I talk with and how the whole banking system works and how their identities are used. It goes very, very much in depth. World Banking, World Fraud, Using Your Identity is exactly what the title says. Just look at it. World Bank, World Fraud, Using Your Identity. That tells it all in a nutshell. That's why I picked the title. You can go to my website, www.worldbankingworldfraud.com. The book is available on Amazon as a Kindle, a paperback. It's also available at barnesandnoble.com as a paperback and a Nook. People need to know the truth. The book tells the truth. And there's more to come. I mean, with the SEC filing, with the IRS being filed, Jerry Corsi's looking into filing with the Arizona legislative. There's a lot of legal organizations going to be involved, and the purpose of that is so they overlay against each other to make sure one another is doing what they're supposed to do. The book is there. People need to read it. People need to know what's going on. I mean, people who have read it are totally, oh my God, this is crazy. This world is nuts. But they can see exactly what's going on in the book, and they see what's going on in the world. This just brings it more to light on how it's done. This brings more to light on how these big corporations need to be divided and conquered. The book talks about you. This talks about your children. You need to protect your children. You need to protect yourself. And the book tells you what's going on how these big corporations are not there to protect you.
Should I take all my money out of the big bank and put it into a credit union?
Yes, I take it out. I don't put my money in big banks. I go to a little bank, mom and pop shop, and I go to credit unions. One or the other. That's where I go. Because if they can't help you with your everyday finances and everyday financial needs, you don't need a bank at all then. So at least you know when you're in a little bank or a little credit union, at least you know you have a lot more protection. And remember, no bank is ever going to call you and say, can I have your account number, please? You don't give it. Nothing is free in this world.
Unless you're the HSBC, PayPal, American Express, MasterCard. And
Well, I'm hoping it's not free. I'm hoping they have to pay for this. Pay it back to the people.
How much do I have to pay for your book, John?
My book right now is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's $10.51.
Oh, that's a good
Kindle
price.
and Nook are $9.99.
That's a good price, man.
Yeah.
All right, John. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. You're a courageous guy. Stay safe.
And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much for being on the West Coast Truth.
Thank you. Have a great day.